everybody, it's Lauren here at Mile High Church. I'm here with Reverend Simon this morning. If you don't know me, I'm the social media gal here, and Reverend Simon is the head of our online ministry. He's currently, he just kicked off his June Wednesday Night Live series called After the Ecstasy, the Laundry, How the Heart Grows Wise on the Spiritual Path. And that title is based on a book of the same name by Jack Kornfield. So we'll have 3 talks. The first was this Wednesday, then we'll have the 21st and the 28th.
Yep.
Reverend Simon has also composed 34 days of contemplations for you to follow along with. And we're going to get into some of that, but first I'm going to talk to him about this series itself. So I really love this series, for those of you that don't know this about me, because I'm kind of a closet Buddhist. Not anymore, now I'm out.
There you go.
But the thing I love about this series and about the Buddhist approach is that we're really called to face what is in this moment, for better or for worse. And I feel like that's sort of how this book approaches life. That's sort of the philosophy behind it. Is that right?
Yeah, it very much is. And one of the reasons I really love it, I think it's a great complement to what we do in Science of Mind and Spirit, because in working with a lot of students, I think sometimes students in Science of Mind and Spirit are, I got to change. I have to change my present. You know, I want a better this, a better that. And that's fine. That's wonderful. I mean, Holmes was very clear that every moment is creative, and we are in no way bound to repeat what has, happened time and time again. But I don't know that we really address, or at least if students get it, that while I'm working on manifesting this wonderful future that I envision and that is my intention, I still have life as it is. And in each and every moment, I need to deal with that, and not just deal with and accept and tolerate, but I really, to the best of my ability, I need to be in joy with my current life, even as I may be desiring some sort of change. That's really a key thing, because it occurs to me in this moment, if I'm trying to attract this new situation, let's say in a relationship, I want to have, in order to really manifest and bring this in, I want to have that energy of joy and peace and excitement and anticipation, but I can't just have it about that thing I want, because the divine is always present tense, not future tense. So if I can manage to have that same sense of joy and engagement and appreciation, gratitude, etc., for my current situation, that actually helps then bring in whatever it is I'm intending.
That's a great point. And it reminds me of when you said during your talk this week that there is never a moment when we're not on the path of awakening.
Absolutely.
There's never a moment when we're not doing the work.
Yeah.
So could you talk a little bit more about how you said that when we're doing this work, our job is to translate the ecstasy into the seeming imperfection of our daily life, the laundry.
Right. And that if people got only one thing, if you were there and you got only one thing out of the talk, this is what I want you to have gotten. That really, Holmes was so big on non-duality, right? And yet it's so easy, just because of our languaging, to talk about the sacred and the mundane, my spiritual life and my ordinary life. And what I really want people to get out of, and what this book addresses, is no, all of it is part of the path. There is never a moment when I'm doing something not spiritual. When I'm cleaning out the gutters on my house after a rainstorm, how I do that, what I bring to that, is going to inform my spiritual path. If I'm up there hating it, and this is stupid, why do I have to do this, and this, or it's somehow beneath me, or look at that energy. I mean, I'm living in that energy, and of course, what am I then going to be resonating with, attracting into my life? I will attract things that are of that similar vibration. But if I can do that, even though I may not love it, I mean, this isn't some let's just all woohoo, life is good, and be like robots. And I love cleaning the gutters, woohoo. I mean, no, you still may.
You could be like that. That's okay.
Could be. If you are, and that's good. But it's not about being fake. It's not about being phony. But it's like, okay, in this moment, I'm doing something that's very necessary. I'm caring for my home. I'm, whatever, however you have to frame it. And again, it's not like, you have to kid yourself and go, wow, this is the most joyous thing in the world. But simply, if nothing else, be present with it and be at peace with it. You know, if you can't be in joy with it, then at least be at peace with it.
And it doesn't mean those things won't arise in your experience. And if they
absolutely.
do, they are going to, because we're human beings. And again, to bring in some of that Buddhist teaching, that is the human experience. We have ups, we have downs. It's not flat, thank goodness, all the time.
Yeah.
It also reminds me of what Thich Nhat Hanh says in one of his books, you do the dishes to do the dishes.
Exactly.
It's what you bring, it's the practice that you bring. It's not what the world brings to you, right?
Exactly. And you're not doing it, I'm going to do the dishes because then I will attain enlightenment, I will be a bodhisattva, and yet I'm doing the dishes because that's what needs to be done.
That's what's in front of me, right.
And I'm present with it. And it's that being present that I think is maybe the key. Let's say a tragedy happens. I mean, you know, as I shared in the service, my mom is in the process of making her transition. Okay, that's not a fun experience for me. There is no time, and I would never, ever suggest to anyone who is going through some sort of tragedy, you know, just put on a happy face, you know, look for the best, look for this. No, it's not about that. Be in grief, be sad, be angry, be heartbroken. When I was doing the service, someone in the audience said, it's heartbreaking, and I caught it, and I was like, yes, it is heartbreaking. And we're, you know, what is that? We're spiritual beings walking,
Having a human experience.
Having a human experience. And another way of saying that to me, which because I hear a little dualism in that. What I would say is, God is experiencing God's self, and in this sense, it's the grief and the sadness and the heart-rendingness of life. But if I can be present with that, if I, like, you know, when I found out about my mom, again, there was no part of me that was like, well, Simon, just look for the gift. No, I was crying and angry, but I was present with it. There was no part of me that felt wrong. There was no part of me that felt that this shouldn't be happening. As far as I know, everybody's going to die.
Right, it's not making that experience less than or
wrong,
worse.
Or wrong.
Yeah, it's not making it wrong. I think that's where the duality comes in. This is the non-spiritual experience. I must have done something wrong in my life, or something must be going wrong for this to arise. And that's just simply not the case.
And that's a good point. You can never do this path wrong. Whatever is in front of you is exactly the right thing in that moment for spiritual growth. No matter. So, something pops into mind that I want to talk about. So let's take a look at what's going on out in the world and all the stuff that's going on and the chaos and the heck. Even though it doesn't feel like it, even though we may not feel in alignment with it, etc., 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 I firmly believe that it is exactly what needs to be happening. Individually, collectively, it is the perfect thing. If nothing else, all of these events that go on and the energy that's out there and the fear that's brought up is what needs to be brought up. It's you know, gosh, there's a line in the book that I can't remember because I think it's for one of the future sessions, and he's quoting someone who Rachel Remen. I don't know, I'm making that up. I don't know. He quotes somebody, but it's someone who does a lot of work with illness. And in that quote, I will look up that quote. She says something to the effect of, you know, the illness is bringing exactly the conditions that are needed to be whatever it is to be addressed. And if nothing else, it brings one into that sense of compassion, the ability to be compassionate, the ability to confront vulnerability, etc.
Well, there's a big difference between approaching the situation as perfection and saying it's all good. I think that's a big distinction for me. If it's all perfect, it can look like a lot of things. Perfection can look like a lot of things. And I think the book talks about embracing the imperfection too.
Right.
But saying something, for me, to say it's all good implies sort of a glossing over, or it all has to look a certain way. It's all manifesting in this very specific way. But to look back, I mean, we've all had the experience of looking back and saying, even though that was a painful experience, how serendipitous that it all unfolded in this very specific way to bring me to the point that I am now. So I feel like we can all look back at certain experiences and say, that happened perfectly. Was it all good? I don't know about that.
Right.
But it was all perfect.
Yeah. My experience of it might not have been good. But,
right.
You know, and David Hawkins, who authored the book Power versus Force, talks a lot about that.
One of my favorites.
I know, mine too. He says that everything is perfectly what it is. And he gives this example of like the life cycle of a rose, and it starts out, I don't know how the roses start out. I don't know if they start out as seeds or what, but a little bush, and then it's a little hard bud, and it opens up more, and you start to see some of the red, and then it's that perfect, Valentine's Day rose, and it progresses until it's wilted and dying and all dried up. And
it's a perfect dead rose.
Exactly.
Right. It unfolds, and that's...
Each one of those is perfectly what it is. But if we get hooked into the, oh no, this little window of that cycle, that's perfection. Well, then if you're not in that window, then yeah. And how often do we do that? This is my idealized version of myself. Fine, aspire to that, but you, right in this moment, are an idealized, perfect version of who you are in this moment.
Yes. Well, I really took that away from the talk, that, if we subject ourselves to focusing on this one tiny experience and this one brief moment and how it feels right now, and project that, because I'm very good at projecting that across all time.
Right.
Sure, I'm not the only one. Show of hands. But really, if we have enough faith to know that everything is unfolding perfectly, then maybe this moment right now, even though it's painful, doesn't have to carry so much sting or so much suffering or so much weight.
Exactly.
We can hold it a little bit differently. I also want to talk about, you mentioned how, especially people who take the classes and go to ministerial school, they'll work on something difficult, and then they think, yes, I've done it, I worked through it, and then it comes up again, and how people can feel like that's a setback. And something else David Hawkins says that I remember is that you haven't lost it. You've never lost it. You're never off the path, but maybe it's come up again to be healed in a new way. Or I think you said there's a new perspective that
new perspective, higher vision, yeah.
Right.
And we're actually going to dig deeper into that in the next talk on the 21st, the third chapter of the book, which we're calling the circular path, because we come around again and again. And like I said, I've heard people feel sometimes like, why is this happening? Why do I keep coming back to this? As if they're making a mistake or they haven't learned, they're doing something wrong. No. Whatever's in front of you is exactly what needs to be in front of you. And if it's the same situation over and over, I can't remember who said it, but you can't step in the same stream twice because the waters have flowed by. I know. Go with it. We could make something up. Somebody's Googling right now and going, oh, I know who it is.
If you know, I see you, Stacey Landis. If you know what it is,
text it,
type
Google
the
it, let us
philosopher
know.
to us.
You can't step in the same water twice. It was like a Greek philosopher, I think. Heraclitus, or Prometheus.
I'm making
that guy.
But I think that's a really important point that I don't want to skip over too quickly, because I talked with a gentleman this weekend about this exact thing, who had come, he's an usher here. And I've heard people say this a lot who attend Mile High and other CSLs, is that for a while they felt like, they started doing this work in New Thought, and then when something kind of icky came up or something they weren't expecting, their immediate response was, what am I doing wrong and how can I fix it?
Yep.
So I think it's really important to point out to people that you're not doing something wrong. Life is unfolding, and it's not that you messed up.
Yeah. Or you're doing it wrong, or these principles don't work. And I've had the experience as well as a minister of, sometimes these things, people will have exactly the experience you talked about, and then they'll stop coming to church, or they'll stop their spiritual practice, or because they get sort of, gosh, it's not working, I've got to get it working again, and then I'll continue. And it's like, no. That's one of the things I wanted to point out with the practice, and which Jack talks about really well, is, your practice. Your practice is what carries you through.
Which is why it's important to commit and dig deep, like you were saying.
Absolutely.
To try some things out, but then you've got to commit.
Absolutely. And those times you don't want to do it, those are the times it's so important to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like going to the gym when you don't want to.
Yeah. And like going to church, Come to church, because this is your support group, your community. And I've heard of people who are like, oh, I don't want to show up, I don't want anyone to know, I'm not in that vibration, I don't want, No, we'll come, we'll lift you up, we'll hold the space.
We've all cried here, a lot.
Oh, hello.
We've all cried, we've all been angry here.
First 6 or 8 months, I cried every Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah.
And also the daily contemplations, if you haven't been following along, they're on our blog, it's milehighchurch.org. /blog, they're also designed to really support you in the practice. So yes, you can come on Wednesday, you can come on Sunday, and you've got that every single day for the month of June and then 4 days of July, which is pretty amazing. So I've been reading those, and I've been reading the book, and I've been listening, and it's amazing how much you can integrate the messages from the talks and from the book if you have that reminder every day from the blog or so
and if you're going through those, if you put in a comment, if you have a question about something in the book or whatever, or some place where you're struggling, and you what is it called? Tag me, or you put my name in there. What is that called?
It's called tag.
Yeah, tag me. Then I will get notified that there's been a question, and I will answer it. That's my commitment for this 34 days. To you got a question, you want to talk about something, I will respond.
You can also comment on the blog, and then next week we do not have a talk. We have our Wednesday Night Live Deluxe. We're going to have the Motones and Eddie Watkins Jr. here, so we're not doing a talk within this series. We're doing our event that I just mentioned. And then on the 21st, do you know what the talk title is?
Yeah, it's a circular path.
A circular path. So that will be the 21st. And after the talk on the 21st and the 28th, you can stay behind. It's going to be in the vote.
I think that we're going to try it. We're going to see if there's an interest. So in the vote chapel, so we'll go out of the auditorium, and rather than being in the lobby and oh, thank you, I liked it, oh, good to see you, we'll go in the vote chapel, which is right off the lobby. And I think maybe I'll have prepared like 10 minutes worth of stuff, because I know sometimes people they feel a little awkward about, well, I'd like to do that, but I don't have a question to ask. So I'll have like 10 minutes worth of stuff that, I could sort of facilitate. But then if people do have questions, they certainly can ask them. And it's not going to be, I know, by that time it's 8 o'clock already, it's like, I got to get home. Stay 10, 15 minutes. We really want to see if this kind of opportunity is of interest to people.
Right. We want to know it supports you too. So if staying behind after the service doesn't, that's great too. And that's why we have so many opportunities this month, especially for you to feel supported and engage with what we're talking about and with Reverend Simon. So we hope that you do that. And thank you for tuning in. Is there anything else you wanted to tell people before we end?
I can't think of it.
All right. So we will see you on Wednesday. In the meantime, there are daily contemplations every day. You can get them on the blog, on the app, on Facebook, on Twitter, on all those channels. So check that out. And again, if you have questions or you want to chat with Reverend Simon, tag him. I will help him know what that
Navigate the social realm.
And just let us know.
Cool.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much.